Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. We're ready to get started. Do we wait for them or we start? Because we were supposed to start at 18 hours, didn't we?
Yes.
Comrade Salim, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready, but
Huh?
moderator just
I can moderate. While we're waiting for them, we can have a conversation. How is Ndola? And we are all okay? In the circumstances. No, that will be with it for a long time. We haven't seen the worst of it yet. Osaka is okay, but with the same problems. I think Copperbelt is more beautiful than Osaka. Why don't you tell them so that they know why it's there?
Yeah, sorry, the person we are waiting for his come. I just want to set the cameras. Yeah, so they can respond to that.
Comrades, good evening. Good evening. As the Press Freedom Committee of the MAST, we are very glad to have you here. We thank you that you responded to our invitation. And above all, we are humbled that Comrade Fred Membe could accept to be hosted by us at New Savoy Hotel in Ndola. It's a wonderful moment for us. And we are glad that he's here with us. My name is MS Chanda to moderate for you. And I'm with a team of colleagues. There's Salim here with the camera. There's also Chambwa. Our core purpose as the Press Freedom Committee of the MAST is to promote, first of all, the freedom of the press, and secondly, freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is a key ingredient to any democracy, such as ours in Zambia. And it is our duty to bring the citizens closer to their leaders so that they interact freely in the same manner that we shall interact today with our leader. Dr. Membe is the 2021 presidential candidate for the Socialist Party, and he's going to discuss a topic on jobs. Comrade Negri, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade. You can go ahead, please.
Good evening, comrades and friends. I would like to extend my thanks to the Press Freedom Committee of the MAST for inviting me to come and be with you this evening and discuss the most important issue of our time, that is jobs, work, or Inchito. This evening, we are going to talk about Inchito. Nisevesi. Most people rely on work in order to earn a living. Many of us cannot survive without work. It may be formal employment, wage in exchange for one's labor, or it may be self-employment through such things as small-scale farming, small businesses, and so on. Either way, there are very few people in this country and this world who do not have to work to earn a living. One of the main tasks of any economy is therefore to ensure that there are sufficient jobs, there are enough jobs or job opportunities to work to meet the people's need to earn a living. Where there is high unemployment, we have an indication of an unjust economy, an economy in which many citizens are not earning a living. One of the main reasons for high poverty rates in our country today is the failure of our economy to provide sufficient jobs. We do not have enough jobs for our people. And where there's no jobs, poverty is usually very high. Joblessness is a very serious issue in Zambia today. It is one of our major problems. In order to derive a benefit from an economy, people must be able to participate in that economy. And for most people, the primary means of economic participation is through work, through jobs, through Inchito. Indeed, throughout human history, it has been a basic norm that all are expected to work and thereby to contribute to the economy. Those who refuse to do so for no good reason have generally been excluded from the benefits of the economy. However, if a society expects its members to work and to contribute, then it should make it possible for them to do so, for them to have jobs. In this regard, a profound responsibility rests on both the political authorities and those who hold powerful positions in the economy to ensure that there are jobs. Everything possible needs to be done to maximize job opportunities. And where the choice is between greater profits and greater employment, the latter must be chosen. In Zambia today, this is a matter of great urgency. We have too many economically active people without jobs, without work, without Inchito. As long as this remains the case, there can be no hope of us achieving a secure and prosperous future for our people. Very high unemployment rates mean that each worker must now support not only his or her own dependents, but also another worker and his or her dependents as well. Thus, unemployment affects not only those without jobs, but also those who have work, those who have jobs are also affected by unemployment. In consequence, the poverty and the growing gap between the well-to-do and the downtrodden can only be exacerbated. It can only worsen. Furthermore, such a high scale of unemployment acts as a huge drain on the resources of the state, further reducing the ability of the state to provide the much needed social services. The harm caused by unemployment is by no means limited to material things. There is also an enormous social cost. While simplistic deductions must be avoided, there can be no doubt that a connection exists between high rates of unemployment and the distressing high incidences of crime, family breakdown, domestic violence, gangsterism, and drug and alcohol abuse, which beset our society today. Many of these social problems in turn impact negatively on the economy, resulting in a vicious cycle which will only be broken by the provision of jobs. But how can we bring an end to this joblessness and create jobs for our people? To solve any problem, one must first understand its origins or its source and its nature. Where is this unemployment, this joblessness, this lack of inchito coming from? Why don't we have jobs? To understand this, we need to go back a little bit into history. We need to go back to the time when the current economic system under which we live started. That is the capitalist society under which we live, the capitalist world under which we live. 700 years ago, when capitalism started, from the embryo of the feudal society, which was a farming society, when the capitalist class emerged and the workers emerged, first through trading, the first type of capitalism was one of traders, of merchants. Hence, it is called mercantile capitalism. They started employing many people as porters, as loaders, offloading things from ships, selling things as salesmen and women. Capitalism at that stage was employing huge numbers of people. After many years of mercantile capitalism, of just trading capitalism, industrial capitalism emerged. And we have all heard of the Industrial Revolution. Mines started to open all over the world, including here on the Copper Belt. That bandit Cecil Rhodes started opening mines here. Our people who had never known what employment is started to be forced into employment. Initially, our people did not want to come and work on the Copper Belt. People from northwestern Solwezi area, the Kaundes, refused to work on the mines. The Lambas here refused to work on the mines. People from northern, Wapula, central provinces refused to work on the mines. Cecil Rhodes had to force them through poll tax to work. They required them to pay taxes through cash. To get that cash, you had to come and work on the mines. They would send tax collectors with guns in the villages, chasing people. Eventually, they started working on the mines and on the commercial farms that emerged later to support the mines. Huge numbers of our people were being employed all over the world. 100 years ago, another new form of capitalism emerged. That is the third form of capitalism. The first one, as I've said, was mercantile capitalism, which was followed by industrial capitalism. A third one joined them 100 years ago, which is finance capitalism. With huge numbers of workers being employed, The money belonging to workers, although the wages were small, started to be huge amounts floating around the world. Banks emerged to handle that money. Insurance companies emerged to handle workers' money. Pension funds emerged to handle workers' money. Hence, what we have today as finance capitalism emerged. Finance capitalism started employing huge numbers of people as well. Banks were full of people. Insurance companies were full of people. Pension funds employing huge numbers of people all over the world. Over the last 30 years, a new form of capitalism has emerged called digital capitalism or ICT capitalism. ICT meaning information and communication technology. This capitalism that emerged 30 years ago or so has been very successful. Its main purpose was to create technologies that reduce the cost of production and the cost of doing business. Hence, the reduction of the cost of labor. How do you reduce the cost of labor? You reduce the cost of labor by doing three things. Creating technology that enable you to employ fewer people and pay them lower wages. Or three, by doing both, employing fewer people and paying them lower wages. This digital capitalism started to create technologies for mercantile capitalism, for the shops, the ShopRites, Pick and Pay, Choppies, and so on, game stores. If you walk into these shops, you'll be shocked by how many fewer people they're employing. A huge shop takes some 5-10 minutes going to ShopRite. Going to Pick and Pay spas. Look at the number of people employed. And look also even at the ages. Most of you comrades sitting here, you cannot be employed by these shops. You are too old. It's not necessarily the age that they're not employing you for. It's your experience. You will give them problems. You will want all sorts of benefits. They are employing school leavers, young people. They pay them very little, 300, 400, 500 kwacha per month on a 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months contract. Most of you will not be able to take that. Even if they gave you 300 kwacha, you will not be able to look after your families. A school leaver can take 100 kwacha, give the parents 200 kwacha, goes to Salaula, buys a few clothes, looks nice, and she or he is happy. So they employ that type of people. You walk into these shops, you find a few cleaners. They are busy all the time cleaning. They don't have even much time to stretch their backs. Then you have a few who are dusting the shelves. That's all these shops are employing. But look at how much money they are collecting from you every day. And where does that money end? Not here. It creates some jobs somewhere else, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go into these shops, look at the products that they are selling. Where do they come from? Mm-hmm. You have tomatoes coming from across the Zambezi or the Limpopo. You have onions coming from South Africa. You have carrots coming from South Africa, mangoes, bananas, and so on. Chickens, eggs. What does that do to the employment of our people here? You go to markets, you find after 17 hours, they're throwing away tomatoes, they are rotting. They can't sell. Some farmers are not even harvesting their produce. They are letting the tomatoes rot in the fields. the vegetables, flower in the fields. Our leaders have complained about some products coming from South Africa. Have they stopped? No, they have not stopped because they are not being brought in here illegally. They are being brought here under the SADC protocol, under the SADC agreement. We had our women who used to sell all sorts of things at the markets and other places. Some of them traveling the world, ordering things to come and resell. Most of those today are not able to sell those things because people can buy them from game stores, can buy them from ShopRite, from Spars. Those who are looking after their children through trading, they have lost a source of income. They have lost a source of self-employment. Women who are selling chikanda on the street, selling eggs on the street, today they are out of business. Because you can go and buy chikanda in these shops, isn't it? Yes. You can go and buy finkubala in these shops. You can go and buy boiled eggs in these shops. Source of income for our people, self-employment, gone. Most of these compounds, at some point, when you walked through them, especially during the rain season, they used to smell very badly. Not from poor sanitation or sewer, no. Chickens. At every house, there was a chicken run. Rearing some birds, maybe 200, 300, 400, 500. Today, when you walk in these compounds, very few people are keeping chickens. Because you can buy these chickens from ShopRite and other shops. And most of these chickens are coming from South Africa. They're coming from South Africa. Our poultry industry, gone. Source of income for our people, source of employment, gone. That's just in the retailing or trading businesses, which is mercantile capitalism. Let's come to industrial capitalism. That's mining, construction, and commercial agriculture. Today, there are very few jobs on the mines. I was reading something that was telling me the mining industry is only employing about 58,000 people in this country today. The total number of people employed in the mines, 58,000. I hope those statistics are correct. There was a time on the copper belt when wherever you went, there were armies and armies of mine workers. Today, those mine workers, you won't see them in those numbers. Why? They have been replaced by machines. In digital capitalism has created the technologies that have made mining less labor intensive. You have complicated excavators, bulldozers, graders, and so forth doing the work. One excavator wipes out the jobs of 2, 3, 4, 5,000 workers. A worker can't compete, a human being can't compete with an excavator. You just can't compete. I hope you know what an excavator is, comrades. It's that machine that looks like an elephant. It digs. It's a robust machine, very nice machine. I enjoy watching that machine work. It's very, very interesting. Very good technology. A human being can't simply compete on the mines. Can't compete with that machine on the construction site. You look at road construction. Those days when they are constructing a road, you are assured that the neighborhood will have jobs. Today, a huge job, road construction, you look at the numbers of people, very few. Even the equipment has become smaller. You think they are bringing more equipment. By the time you realize it, the road is finished. No jobs. You go to commercial agriculture. Those days when you have a big commercial farm, there will also be a big compound of workers next to that commercial farm. Today, you go to a commercial farm, there are very few workers. Why? Those jobs have been taken up by complicated machines, combine harvesters, digitalized tractors. We have boom sprayers today that are not manned by human beings. They are on autopilot. Jobs in commercial agriculture gone. There was a time when you walked in a bank. As you enter the bank, there will be a security guard opening the door for you. Those were jobs. Today, when you go to a bank, there's no security guard opening the door for you. The door is digitalized. There is even a camera on top watching you. Those days when you enter the bank, you would find a till, tills from wall to wall, and at every till there's a teller. Those jobs are gone today. The banks are empty. There are no tills in the banks. If they are there, very few. Those days, we walk into a banking hall, the banking hall would be full of all sorts of people like the way we are seated here. All sorts of ages, managers, assistant managers, clerks, all sorts of people, young and old, working in the bank. Today, you walk into a banking hall, the banking hall is empty. And this is a sector that used to employ a lot of our young people coming out of secondary schools, coming out of college, coming out of university. Today, those jobs are gone. Banks are employing very, very few people. You walk outside the bank, you find a machine in the wall. A small machine in the wall. What is that machine for you? ATM. You find an ATM. A human being can't compete with an ATM. An ATM doesn't need maternity leave. Taifiala. An ATM doesn't attend funerals. It has no relatives or friends who die. An ATM doesn't go to church on Saturday or Sunday. It doesn't worship any god. An ATM doesn't go on study leave. It has got no qualifications to improve. An ATM has no tea break, has no lunch break. It just works and works and works and works. A human being can't compete. Jobs gone. Lost to that small machine. That small machine has taken all those jobs inside. Many banks are closing branches today. There's no bank in this country that is not reducing the branches. Even if we brought in more investment, more foreign investment into the banking sector, they are still not going to create the jobs we used to know. They are still not going to open the branches banks used to have. So the jobs that they will bring will still be very few. Will still be very, very few. But the story does not end there. They have not only taken away the jobs inside the banking hall from you, but when you go to the ATM, you just can't stand there and say ATM mpelako 200 kwacha or 300 kwacha yafuma. You have to start operating the machine, isn't it? Are you paid to operate that machine? No. Is there any contract between you and the bank to be working for the bank as a machine operator? No. So you are working for the bank for mahala. You are working for the bank for mahala. On top of working for the bank for mahala, the bank charges you for working for it for mahala. You know, whenever you go to the ATM, they charge you, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. So you have lost your job, you are working for mahala, and you are paying the bank for working for mahala. the jobs lost in the banks. Let's go to the telecommunication businesses, those who are providing the services of these cell phones. They are making so much money every day from you. Every time you switch on this phone, money is going, isn't it?
Yes.
Look at the jobs that are there. My daughter was telling me, her friend who works for one of these companies, which I won't mention, one of the biggest, is employing less than 200 people, the whole country, and they are still proning. But look at the amount of money they are collecting from us. And if these telecommunication companies cannot provide the jobs, with so much money they are collecting from us, where are we going to get jobs? Who is going to employ us? They don't even employ people who sell talk time. They're just giving them a small commission that can't get them out of poverty. And if you notice, the numbers of people selling talk time has reduced tremendously. Because you are buying now talk time online, isn't it? So there are no jobs again, even for selling talk time at a low rate. Jobs gone. These are the companies making a lot of money. And a number of these companies also are using your money. They are using your money to get you out of jobs. When these trading shops come here, the ShopRites and others and so forth, they don't come with all the money they need. They come with some money from pension fund in South Africa and other places. But when they come here, they go for your money, your pension funds from NAPSA. NAPSA takes your money to these shops, buys shares on the stock exchange. They give them your money to use. But if you notice, if you examine it carefully, you'll find that that money of yours you have given to these businesses is being used to get you out of employment. The money they are getting from ShopRite, they are using from NAPSA, they are using it to get you out of work. And also to even get you out of business. Because these shops get you out of business. Using your money, using Zambian workers' money. The issue is, if we are not creating jobs in the retail businesses, the trading businesses, we are not creating jobs in the industrial sector, mining, construction, commercial agriculture. We are not creating jobs in under finance capitalism, the banks, insurance companies, pension funds. We are not creating jobs under the telecommunication industry. Where are we going to create jobs? Where are the jobs going to come from? We are still producing children. Many of them. We have one of the highest birth rates in the world. We are number 4 in the world, Kukufia. That's true. If it was soccer, we would qualify for the Africa Cup, semi-finals, straight, or World Cup, semi-finals. Or World Cup, in fact, because we are number 4 in the world, we would qualify for the World Cup, semi-finals. Yes, but in Chito, Takuli. We have so many young people finishing secondary school. Where are they going to work? We have so many young people leaving college and university. Where are they going to work? We have many young people who are working, who have lost their jobs. They have little children, very young children, who need to be clothed, who need to be fed, who need to be taken to school, who need medicines. And you know under 5s are a problem with medicines, isn't it? Yeah. It's part of their diet, they eat medicines. In Chitota Okwete, you are a young parent. How are you going to look after those children? Schools are no longer free. You have to pay. Medicines are no longer free, you have to pay for them. Food is not free, you have to pay for it. Accommodation is not free, you have to pay the rentals. Even if there's Salaula that is a little bit cheap, still you don't get it for free, you have to pay, isn't it? In Pia Shikafu Makwili, Yakwete Nchito. What are we going to do? This is the situation we face today. Our leaders tell us they will create 1 million jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't see how they will do it under the current circumstances, under the current capitalist system in which we live or under which we live. It's not possible to create 1 million jobs. I'm short of saying they are lying. It's not possible. If the entire mining industry is just employing 58,000 people, how are you going to create 1 million jobs? Which sector are you going to use to create 1 million jobs under the current order? It's not possible. If that is not possible, what is next for us? As Mr. Liwewe used to say, which way Zambia now? Which way? Fortunately for us, brothers and sisters, this situation is not ordained on us by God. It's not something that God has ordained on us or imposed on us. If it was, I would say let's walk ourselves to the nearest cemetery and bury ourselves alive. There's no need to live. How are you going to live? But since it's not God who has ordained this on us, it's we ourselves who have created this situation. We can solve it. We can solve this problem. We can address this problem. It's not an easy problem. Don't let anybody cheat you. It's not an easy problem. It requires the best of our thoughts, the best of our intentions, the best of our values, the best of our intellect. It requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of honesty. The purpose of discussions like this is to find solutions to these problems. You have left your homes. You should have been with your families. You have come here to listen to me. You have not come here to entertain you. You have not come here to be entertained by me. You are here to find solutions to these problems. Don't let anybody cheat you.
Excuse me, dear audience, could we keep our phones on silent or we switch them off? Yeah, I strongly request, because it's interfering with the flow of our debate.
Don't let anybody cheat you that they have got magic solutions to these problems, that they can solve them for you. There is no one in this world who will solve these problems for you other than yourselves. How do we proceed to solve these problems? What is the solution to these problems? We have ideas. We have ways as a party. But I would rather postpone that discussion to another session so that we have the time to debate, to discuss the issues I've raised here. If I delve into the solutions or the paths that we need to take, I will need double or 3 times the time. And I would rather I open the discussion. One may think, oh, you are evading the problems. No, we are not evading, comrades. We have to deal with these problems. We have to confront them. Otherwise, there's no need for us to be in the politics we are in. There's no need to create a party, a socialist party. We have created this party. We are participating in the politics of our country to try and address these issues. That's the whole main purpose of our existence. If we can't improve the living conditions of our people, we are of no value. If we can't find solutions to these problems, we are wasting your time. I would rather at this stage we open the discussion, we get the questions, unless people insist that we get into the other. If you are ready to stay here up to midnight, we can get into the other one.
We will not be allowed to stay beyond 20 hours. Yeah, comrades, we will continue with Comrade Membe, the Socialist Party 2021 presidential candidate. I will now open the debate to you to engage with him. I will be taking 3 questions at a time, and I insist that only 1 question per person, and be very brief so that we can accommodate as many people. Yes. Okay. Okay. I'll start with the comrade there.
Yeah.
Yes. You just tell us your name before you contribute.
I'm Comrade Bruce Potter from Masara. And my question is, since the world is changing, is going digital, like you had alluded earlier that banking jobs have been taken over by the ATMs. Since the world is going digital, meaning manpower will be cut where they're supposed to work 10 people, maybe 1 machine will be operating. How would you advise on that one? Which jobs should we take? Thank you.
Thank you. Let him respond to that.
Yes. Let's not be mistaken to think technology is our enemy, or to think that we don't need the technology. Comrades, we need this technology. We need this technology. We need these excavators. The problem is not technology. What is causing unemployment is not the machines. It's not the ATM that is causing unemployment. It's not the excavator that is causing unemployment. What is causing unemployment is the capitalist system that is anchored on production for profit and not for the satisfaction of human needs. The benefits of technology are not being shared with the worker. What do I mean? Take for instance, if it takes a worker 8 hours to produce this volume of goods without technology, it takes that worker 8 hours. And with the technology, it takes the worker 2 hours to produce the same volume of goods. Do you know what capitalism will do when technology is introduced? They will retrench workers. They will leave very few. And those few who remain will be forced to work more than 8 hours. Is that a must, that when technology is introduced, jobs should be lost? No. You can keep the same number of workers and reduce the working hours from 8 hours to 2 hours and keep everybody in employment. Some will say, how can an entire adult work just 2 hours a day? Let's not forget that when industrial capitalism started, some 600 or so years ago, workers were working 20, 21 hours a day. 20, 21 hours a day. It took grueling struggles by the working people. Workers have been killed fighting for the reduction of working hours. To move from 20 hours to 8 hours to the 8 hours we have today, many workers have died all over the world, killed by capitalism, just for demanding a shorter working day that would enable a human being to live as a human being. But if we can move from 20 hours to 8 hours, why can't we move from 8 hours to 2 hours? And moreover, with the technology today that is changing so fast, you need that 6 hours to go to school continually. You need to study. You need to learn. You also need that time to look after your children. You need those 6 hours to spend with your children. We are not spending time with our children now. We don't have time. We're just working. And the children are being brought up by other children. What values can a child learn from another child? We need also those 6 hours for our own spiritual development. For those who worship, to go to church and worship, to go and preach, evangelize, to go and sing in the choir, practice songs. We need also those 6 hours for our own cultural development. Those who know how to dance, you practice how to dance. Those who know how to jive, you jive. Those who know how to play music, you play music. Those who know how to do knitting, crafts, and so forth, you do that. Those who can paint, you draw. You also need those 6 hours for exercises to keep yourself fit. For the younger ones, they can even go into competitive sport and go to the Olympics. You also need those 6 hours to visit your relatives. Today, we don't know our relatives because we don't have time. Our children is worse. We are not taking them to see their relatives, to visit their relatives. They don't know them. You may be cheated to think relatives are not important. Comrades, relatives are very, very important in one's life. Extremely important. They are not a nuisance. They are a huge benefit to one's life. And moreover, even if for scientific reasons or biological reasons, you need to know your relatives. If you don't know your relatives, you end up marrying your cousins, your first cousin, your second cousin, the third cousin, fourth cousin. You start producing children. And we know that when there's a closer genetic makeup and you start producing children, inbreeding, those children don't come out well, isn't it? So you need to know your relatives so that you don't produce children with your relatives. In short, we need that time to be given back to the worker as a result of the technology that has been developed by the worker. It is the worker who is developing technology. It's not the capitalist who is developing technology. It's you, the humble worker, who is developing this technology. And the same technology you have developed is being used against you. So we are not enemies of technology. Technology is not our enemy. We need this technology. But we need technology that does not displace the human being from earning a living. The capitalist system has been cruel, comrades. Slave trade. Slave trade did not stop because it was immoral. Slave trade stopped because it was unprofitable. You are being dumped without jobs because it's unprofitable for the capitalists to continue employing you today. Keeping you in employment is not profitable. So they dump you, and they don't mind how you're going to live.
Thank you. Before before you, I will invite the lady. And we give a microphone.
My name is Ms. Kafupi Martha, coming from Masala. Our incoming president, I heard you talk about the high rate of unemployment in Zambia, which is as a result of unjust economy. Can you go into detail? Maybe a few of us, maybe didn't get what you said. So can you kindly go into details?
What we mean by an unjust economy is here, you have production going on. That production that you, the worker, is engaged in, is getting you out of employment. You are the producer of wealth. All the wealth that you see in this world is produced by the worker. In the capitalist society, it's not the capitalist who produces, it's the worker who produces. Under the slave-owning society, when people lived as slaves, the producer of all wealth in that society was the slave. It was not the slave owner. That was replaced by the capitalist society. The producer was the peasant, the farmer, who was cultivating, not the feudal lord who was collecting whatever was produced. In a just economy, where there's equity, where there's fairness, the one who produces cannot continue to live in poverty. Right? But the slave lives in poverty. The peasant produces all the wealth in a feudal society, but the peasant lives in poverty. The worker today is producing all the wealth in this world. This building we're in is a product of the worker. These microphones here, they're produced by the worker. The clothes we wear are produced by the worker. But the worker who produces all the wealth lives in poverty. The capitalist who is not the producer amasses all the wealth. When I was in business school, I was taught that to produce, you needed the capitalist to bring capital and the worker to bring labor, and together they produced. That's what I was taught. For most of my life, my studies have been in business. That is not true. The capitalist is not bringing in anything. The capitalist does not bring in anything. Even the capital that the capitalist purports to bring in, that's a product of a worker. That capital has been appropriated from a worker. And it is being used to exploit another worker, another worker, another worker. Is that a just economy, comrade? It isn't. It isn't.
Yes, go ahead.
And moreover today, let me just say, add one more thing. We have poverty in the world. We have inequality in the world, not because few goods are being produced. The world today is producing enough goods to feed all human beings. We can wipe out poverty today in the world because production is very high. But why do we have poverty amidst such high production? Let me give you an example. The USA, the richest country in the world, today has got 14 million human beings living on the street. 14 million human beings in the USA live on the street. While those 14 million human beings live on the street have got no housing, there are many mansions in the USA that are empty. You go to California, there are empty houses. In front of those empty houses, there are people living on the street. Why are they living on the street when there are empty houses? It's simply because those houses were not produced to satisfy a human need for accommodation. They were built for speculative purposes. They were built to make a profit for the owners, not to satisfy a human need. An economy should satisfy human need. That phenomena, we see it in Zambia today. We have people, buying big plots, building many houses in that plot. There's a wall fence. Most of those mansionettes are empty. Our people are crowded in the compounds, in Ikwa. But you have empty houses. Why? Because those houses were not built to satisfy the human need for accommodation. They were built for profit. If they require 15,000, 20,000 kwacha to pay for every month, you have only 1,000 kwacha. Can they take you in those houses? They won't take you. You end up in the compound.
My name is Kaingo Nyakaula. My name is Kaingo Nyakaula. My question is, are you saying capitalism is a source of unemployment and mass poverty in the country? And how does socialism overcome these factors?
There was no poverty, there was no inequality before capitalism emerged. Capitalism has not always been there. There was a time when human beings, the whole planet for millions of years, lived by hunting and gathering. No production whatsoever. That is the primitive communal society. We all lived by hunting and gathering. That society was totally anchored on equity. Equity in the sense that nobody owned land, nobody owned anything, not even a chicken. Whatever was gathered or hunted from the bush was shared equitably. And because of that, there was no poverty, yet there was no production. Are we together? With the capitalist society today, amidst huge production, high technology that have increased production 1 million times, poverty is also increasing in a very big way. Why? Why should we have a poverty in a world that is producing so much? Every year in winter, the capitalists go to Davos in Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. What do they discuss there? There are two major issues they are discussing in Davos every year in winter. One, growing inequality in the world and within the capitalist nations themselves. Two, growing poverty in the world and within the capitalist nations themselves. But they are not finding the points. No, they have very good economies. They are failing to find the solution because they are trying to square a circle. To solve the current issues of growing inequality in the world, growing unemployment in the world, you need to remove capitalism. Are they ready to destroy capitalism? No, they are not ready. That's why Pope Francis says the worst enemy, the greatest enemy of the Catholic Church today is capitalism. That's the Pope, the Holy Father, declaring capitalism as enemy number one of the Catholic Church. Why are they failing to solve the problems of inequality and poverty? It's simply because the whole system is anchored on greed. It's a production for profits and not for the satisfaction of human needs. To remove this problem, you need to destroy capitalism. And without destroying capitalism, you will not be able to solve this problem. It's like trying to find the cure for HIV. It's not that our scientists in the world can't find a drug that can kill the virus. It's very simple for them to find a drug that can kill the virus. The problem they have is to find a drug that kills the virus, but does not kill the body. If they find a virus that kills a drug that kills the virus, but after it has killed the virus, kills the body, are they going to administer that drug to you? No, they won't administer it. It's the same with the capitalist society today. The solutions that they have to remove poverty, to remove inequality, would require the destruction of capitalism, and they are not ready to do that. So what do? They come up with mitigations. Most of these are just mitigations. The same way the drugs for HIV that people are taking every day, they are mitigations. They are not curing the disease. They are not curing the deficiency. They keep you alive for a longer period and a bit more comfortable. But the problem is not God. That's the challenge we have with capitalism today. Production for profit and not for the satisfaction of human needs. Socialism removes that. The priority is the satisfaction of human needs and not profit. The needs of the human being take precedent. Free education. Every human being is entitled to education. Every human being is entitled to free medical services. A human being can't live without food. A human being can't live without shelter. We are no longer animals wandering in the bush. We are human beings requiring shelter. We need clothes. We need access to clean water. We need access to proper sanitation. These are fundamental needs of a human being, a modern human being. We need also to live in a clean environment. Capitalism doesn't care. If the profits justify it, they will pollute the Kafue River. Because the destruction of their chemicals is expensive. So they just empty it in the river. And they are ready to pay some small charges whenever they are taken to court here and then. Because it's still profitable for them. But they are destroying the source of livelihood for many people. Fish die, human beings die to chemicals they're drinking in the water, and so on. They don't care. They don't care.
We have ladies.
My name is Mrs. Kunda Irene. I'm pleased to meet you, sir.
I'm also pleased to meet you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Such a fora is very important to us, your potential voters. I want to say something on what you mentioned concerning the mining sector and the massive job losses. My question is, what is the solution to the same?
Firstly, we need mining that is beneficial to our people. It is a resource that has been given to you by your creator when you are placed in this territory. If you don't benefit from it, what are you going to benefit from? Can mining be done in Zambia in a manner that benefits you? Yes, it can be done. The Socialist Party in government will change the way mining is done. But again, the details for that will take us much longer. But it will be made beneficial. The current mining is not benefiting you. You are not getting sufficient jobs. You are not getting the taxes that are required to be gotten from mining. The environment is being destroyed, and so on. We need mining that benefits you, that protects the environment. How we are going to do it is a detailed program. But those who attend our classes, I think we do, because we have sufficient time, we do explain it. Some of you here who have attended our programs, you are aware of what we're going to do in detail. These will not be secrets. But it's not something that is just dreamt by one person. One genius person comes up with a mining policy. No. Your views are required. It's you who is going to change that. It's not me. We are not looking for a single genius with all the answers to the problems of this world. We are looking for a collective genius. And the collective genius comes as part of this interaction. So mining will change.
Gentleman there.
Comrade Mwembe, I am Milton Chituma from Sun FM radio station. I just want to ask a question on job creation, because ever since we have come to the dispensation of multipartism, it's like we haven't achieved that part of job creation. And on your part, you are a socialist type of, you've got a socialist type of leadership. I just want to know how you achieve that, because right now we're still grappling with job creation. And when you look at President Chiluba sold all the companies, and then when Awasa came in, and then Rupia Banda, and up to now, we've got this current president who is sitting in now, Edgar Lungu. What measures have you put in so that you're able to come, when you come into 2021, you become a president, what measures have you put in so that you should create job creation? Because many people right now are languishing in poverty and there are no jobs being created.
Thank you.
Comrade, you are promoting me to a status of a messiah, which I'm not. And I will never be. There has been only, and there will only be one Messiah, which is Christ, and I'm nowhere near there. I'm not a Messiah. And I'm not here because I know more than you. Yes, I've gone to school. I'm an economist. But I do not have all the answers to the problems of this world. What we are looking for is not answers from one person who becomes president and then goes around solving problems. Do this in this economy, do that, gives all the directive, all the decrees that are required. You won't solve the problems of this world that way, or of this country that way. It is you yourself. I'll ask you to start from your problems, the problems you are facing today. You have to understand first the problems you are facing today. Secondly, you have to try and find what is causing those problems. What is the nature of those problems? Then collectively, we look for a solution. Leaders lead. The people govern. I'm simply a guide. The hero and the heroine is you. A leader does not make a revolution. A revolution is a product of the masses. Until you yourself, sir, you are able to know what the solution is to these problems, there will be no change in your life. No matter how many educated people you bring into your government, how many degrees they have, and how well-intentioned they are, until all of you know what must be done. Lenin said, socialism is a system where the humblest cook knows how to handle state affairs. The day you, sir, you'll be able to govern, and govern in your own interests, to ensure that you have access to clean water, to ensure that you have reasonable shelter with proper sanitation, to ensure that your children go to school, to ensure that there's adequate medical facilities for you and your family, and you have enough food to eat, there will be no change in your life. There will be no change in your life. People who, for how many, you have said it yourself, for more than 28 years now of multipartyism, you have been cheated by so many people. Vote for me, I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you. Have they done it? They have done it for themselves. Those you voted for are living much better than you. Their lives have improved. Has your life improved? Maybe some, in some small way. But the great majority of our people, poverty is increasing. People are not sleeping, especially women. You go to sleep at 21 hours tonight, there are children to be fed the following day. There are children to go to school the following day. There are medicines to be bought. This woman sleeps for 2 hours, 3 hours. She wakes up, tries to sleep, she can't. Reads the Bible, gets tired, starts doing all sorts of mathematics, calculus, algebra, statistics. In the morning, the solution is found. People at that house eat. Children at that house go to school. Medicines are bought at that house. And we cheer her MacGyver. Yes, she's a MacGyver, but she's solving those problems at a great cost to her life. The next thing you hear, there's nobody who has witched her. You have killed that woman with stress. Stress builds up, hypertension kicks in, and the woman dies. We are killing our people, especially our women. I'm not saying men are not dying from hypertension. They are dying, but not at the rate women are dying. Because a man can find an exit. Pangandanga palama problems. Mbala aluva goes and stays with another woman who has got a bit of money. He helps her to chew that money. And in that way, his life is prolonged a little bit. Or he starts coming home after midnight, panga and 11, they are quite tepamia. So, comrades, I'm not a messiah, I'm not a burden bearer to solve these problems. If you are dependent on me, you'll be wasting your time. Don't waste your time thinking a messiah has come from somewhere. My job is simply to do what this comrade is doing. What are you doing, comrade, at this meeting?
I'm facilitating.
Yes, I'm also just a facilitator, sir. I'm just a facilitator. A pastor will not take you to heaven.
Yes.
Pope Francis will not take you to heaven. The one who takes you to heaven is who? You yourself. What you can't do for yourself, nobody will do it for you. And that's why you need to come as a class of people who are suffering.
Yeah.
Work together to solve your problems. The people you have supported before are not failures. They've been very successful. The parties that have won elections in Zambia since 1991 have been very successful. None of them is a failure. Even those who have not won elections yet, under the capitalist group of parties in this country, they have been very successful. they have given the benefits to their members, to their class members. There is no political party that does not belong to a class. Don't be cheated. There's no political party that does not belong to a class. And these political parties have delivered to their class members. They have delivered to the capitalist class, they have delivered to the petty bourgeois class, the comprado bourgeois class that they support. They don't have problems with water where they live. They have got clean water. They don't have problems with sanitation where they live. They don't have problems with shelter where they live. They don't have problems with education for their children. They don't have problems with health services. Sometimes even just coughing, they are taken where? To South Africa and India. You, even if you have a serious problem that requires complicated surgery, you may be moving with a notebook stamped by the church from door to door looking for donations. By the time you raise enough money, they have already buried you. Why? Because the state that is there is not for you. It's not for your class. You need to take over power yourself and you rule in your own interests. Yeah. The class that rules always lives better. The slave owners ruled under the slave owning society. The slave owners lived better than the slave. Under the feudal society, the feudal lords ruled and they lived better than the feudal lords. The capitalist class today, with these agents, rule and they are living better than the worker. When the worker takes control of the state apparatus, as the ruler, as the class that is determining the direction of society, the worker will live better. We have seen, comrades, I'm not trying to imitate or copy another country. We have a country called Cuba. Cuba is a small country with a population of 11 million, a third world country. It has got no minerals the way we have minerals. But in Cuba, there is no poverty. How? Because it's a society anchored on equity. There's free education guaranteed for you in the Constitution. There's free medical services guaranteed for you in the Constitution. You are also guaranteed the right to housing. Nobody sleeps on the street in Cuba. Nobody. If you don't have where to sleep, you can go to the president and say, Raul, find me where to sleep. Raul will not build you a house, but he'll find you where to sleep because the Constitution obliges him to do so. The GDP of Cuba is $85 billion. The GDP of Zambia is 25 billion. A country with all the minerals. The education system in Cuba is better than the USA, a very rich country. And this is not me. This is what the UN, UNICEF, and others are saying. They have got a better medical service. They are exporting doctors. They are earning foreign exchange from exporting doctors. They have got so many doctors they have trained. Look at our doctor ratio. Many of our people die without ever seeing a doctor. They are born and die without ever seeing a doctor. When they talk about a doctor, they are talking about a clinical officer or a male nurse. So you need a system that guarantees you that. And only when you take control yourselves are you going to create such a society for yourselves. We are not imitating another country. We are not going to have a Cuban revolution here. We are going to have a Zambian revolution here. Our socialism is not the way China is or Cuba is. No, it has to be based on our own history, on our own cultures, on our own circumstances. The circumstances that prevailed in Cuba, that prevail in Cuba, are not the same. The situation in China is not the same as in Zambia. Of course, there are fundamental values to which we all aspire. But we are going to create our own. There's no blueprint how we are going to make our people live better. We can't buy that blueprint from anybody. We'll create it ourselves. And part of these interactions, the questions that you're asking, the explanation that I'm giving, can move us a step closer and closer. We need to interrogate these issues. We have to start from our own needs. How do we ensure that we eat tomorrow? It's not a small thing. Every human being has to have access to food. You can't run a country where people do not have access to food, are not guaranteed access to food. We are the 4th hungriest country in the world today. Zambia, 4th hungriest country in the world, after Chad, Central African Republic, and Madagascar. We are number 4 in the world, Kunsala. With all the water, with all the good soil that God has given us, we are number 4 in the world, Kunsala. What do you want from God? You want manna to be dropping. You want to go to church on Sunday to pray to God to give you food. He has given you everything. What you should do on Sunday or Saturday when you go to worship is ask for God to give you more wisdom so that you can use what He has given you properly. We have no right to be hungry. And also hunger, comrades, is not a small thing that we should not take seriously. Hunger damages human beings, especially the under 5s. The under 5, when he's hungry, the flow of oxygen to the brain is reduced, and it damages the brain. When that brain of an under 5 is damaged, there's no repair. Chikopo is finished. You can bring the best teachers, they won't do anything to that child. It's like trying to drive a car without oil in the engine. What happens to the engine? It knocks. But with a car, you can go and recondition the engine, buy spares. With that brain of that child, you will not be able to. Yes, you can fix the body with the nyamasoya. Yeah, you can repair the damage of the body with nyamasoya, and the child grows up with big mubabe, dressed in a nice suit from Salaula, and my friend there thinks, oh no, kwatira. You start talking to him, you discover there's nothing up here under 5. So we need to start addressing these issues. They are serious issues. Every human being matters. It's not only the well-to-do, comrade. Every human being matters. You as Christians, you know that every human being is made in the image of God. And it doesn't matter whether you are there or you are there, your life is the same. And if it's the same, it means all of you should have access to food. You should have access to medical services. You should have access to education. You can't live in the 21st century without education. You can't.
I'll get one last contribution from the gentleman. Sure.
My name's Deusdedit Bwalia. I'm coming from Kalulushi. Comrade, I feel very happy the way you speak with a passion about workers and about the Zambian. I think if we had such leadership in the past, I think we were able to get somewhere. I'm also happy that you make us realize that technology is not an enemy to us. At the same time, that the solutions are all lying amongst us. The way you speak with the passion about workers, it's like you represent the workers. I would want to find out how much engagement are we making to the trade unionists? Or what's the plan that we have in terms of engagement with the trade unionists? We've got our friends in the informal economy. What plan do we have in terms of engagement? Because these are the ones that are losing their jobs from the mercantile capitalism. At the same time, we've got our friends who are peasant farmers, which has got a potential in terms of growing our GDP as a country. What engagement are we making to them? Thank you, comrade.
Thank you.
Comrade, you have asked too many questions.
It's only one,
But
comrade.
no, too many questions, but all very important questions. Extremely important questions. I will not elaborate much, but let me just say the future of this country depends on us tackling peasant agriculture. Without dealing with peasant agriculture, we will not be able to lift our people out of poverty. What do I mean by peasant agriculture being our mainstay? Do I mean all of you should be carrying a kambwiri on your shoulders? I don't mean the brother Chishimba Kambwiri, I mean the whole. No, we don't need to turn all of you into peasants. But all of you can have an engagement with peasant agriculture. Currently, the deployment of our workforce is 85% of our workforce is deployed in agriculture, producing 9% of our GDP. Some are even saying now it's 5.4%. Let's stick with 9%, that is a bit conservative. 85% of our workforce is deployed in agriculture, producing 9% of our GDP, which is our wealth as a country. 6% of our workforce is deployed in industry, mining, construction, commercial agriculture, and so forth, producing 24% of our GDP. 9% of our workforce is deployed in services, banking, insurance, tourism, and so forth, producing 69% of our wealth. You have 85% producing only 9%. That's in agriculture. And that's what they're dependent on for survival. You have 15% of your population producing 91% of the wealth. Are we together? We have seen from the early discussion we had this evening that there are no jobs in industry. We are losing jobs every day, isn't it? We are also losing jobs in services, banking, and so forth, isn't it? So, if we need to reduce poverty, which is among the 85% who are dependent on agriculture, we have two routes. Either to transfer some of that 85% to industry, but we can't transfer it because industry is not taking any more jobs, isn't it? We can't transfer them to services because services are not taking any more people. So the only way out for us is to increase the 9% that agriculture is producing of the GDP. If we don't increase that, we are in trouble. How do we increase that? We need to change the way peasant agriculture is conducted. How do you change that? You need first to improve the tools of agriculture. You need to start producing plows, planters, harvesters for peasant farmers so that their productivity increases. It means we have to set up factories producing these things. Those factories will employ people. We need engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and their technicians. Those factories will need HR people. Those factories will need sales people, marketing people. They will need drivers. They will need cleaners. They will even need catering people because there will be staff canteens. They will need even medical people, nurses and clinical officers because there will be staff clinics. They will need ICT experts. They will need accountants, lawyers, and so on, just to produce equipment for peasant farmers. You have created so many jobs. You may not have engineers, electrical and mechanical in the beginning, but you can go all over the world and get expatriate labor while you are training your own people. The training of your own people will not just be in colleges and universities. It has to start in kindergarten, in nursery, at the age of 3. A child should go to nursery. You train them all the way to university. How do you guarantee that? There must be free education. From nursery at the age of 3 all the way to university, education must be free. Totally free. And also it must be compulsory from nursery up to grade 12, compulsory. If you don't take your child who is 3 years old to nursery, we'll send you to prison. And if you are going to prison, You are going to prison without a diploma or a certificate. When you come out of prison, you have a degree, because we'll make sure that in prison you go to school. If you are in grade 12, grade 11, grade 10, grade 9, grade 8, and you don't go to school, we'll arrest you and send you to prison, to Katombola or another juvenile prison. We'll make sure those juvenile prisons take our best teachers, our best sociologists, our best psychologists, so that they sort you out. By the time you leave that prison, you'll be going to the university. Some of you ask, how are you going to provide free education from nursery all the way to university? Good question, isn't it?
Yes.
But not everything starts with money. And that's capitalist thinking, that everything starts with the money. Money is not the beginning and the end of things. Let's start with the principles. Let's start with the principles. Why do we want free education for our people? Why should they have free education? That's the starting point. Then we come to the money issue. Then we look for the money. Why do we want free education? Comrade, do you have children?
Myself?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
How many?
One.
One.
Yes.
How old?
22 years.
22 years. Okay, I leave you. Comrade, do you have children?
Yes.
How many?
3.
How old? The oldest.
25.
The youngest?
12 years.
12 years. What is he doing? Or she? Is it a she or he? She. What is she doing?
She's still at school.
She's still at school. If today you sold that girl, some people with money, what will happen to you? If you decide to sell that girl today, what will happen to you? You will not only be broken, we will send you to prison. Why are we sending you to prison? It's because that child is not yours. You are just a maid looking after our child. That child is our child.
Yeah.
She's not your child. You are just a maid looking after our child. If you sold that jersey you are wearing to this comrade, what will happen to you? Why? Because it's yours. That child is not yours. The jersey you are wearing is yours. You can sell. That child is not yours. But there's something that is not tying up here. Do we bring that girl food? Do we buy her clothes? Do we pay for the fees? Do we buy her medicines? Do we help with the rent? What type of parents are we? So we have left you, the maid, to look after our child. Is it making sense? No, comrade. That child is ours. We have to look after that child of yours. We cannot only come in at the point when you want to sell. It's when we say you can't sell, it's our child. It's our child throughout, not only at the point of sale. For you to look after those children, does it matter whether you have money or no money? Whether you have money or no money, you still have to look after that girl, isn't it? Yes. But now we are saying, as a government, we can only look after our children when we have money. When we don't have money, we wash our hands like Pontius Pilate. We don't know those children. What type of parents are we? What type of owners are we of those children? You are getting the point I'm trying to drive at. Money or no money, the Zambian government has to look after its children. It has to look after its children. Then let's come to money. We have settled the principle, free education is a must. Now how are we going to fund it? We'll find the money. First, let's start with just savings. Comrades, when you have little money, what do you do in the house? You cut down on certain things, isn't it?
Yes.
That are not necessary. Even us, we have to do that to look after our children. Education is a must. We have to cut it down. We have to cut it down. Where do we cut it down? We start with the president. He's not the most important or necessary person. Your ministers, your members of parliament, your councillors are not the most important people. But look at what you give them. Look at what you give them. One person, 3 cars. One person, a fleet of cars. Our president lives better than the European prime ministers who have more money than us. We need to cut down. The president is not the most important person in this country. The minister is not the most important person in this country. The member of parliament is not the most important person in this country. The councillor is not the most important person. I would rather see a minister walking to the office and our children are riding on a school bus going to school. They are more important than the minister. We can cut down on those things and provide education to our children. And also, we will deal with education in a different way. We will deal with education in a manner that is cost-effective and also that increases jobs. You can't run schools the way we are running them, where the teacher who has been trained to teach is running everything. Is the HR person, is the accountant, is this and that. No. Schools will become the biggest employers in our country. You have HR people in schools, you have IT experts in schools, you have accountants in schools, you have nurses and clinic officers in schools, you have catering people in schools, and so on. So there will be huge employment. Where the money going to come from? We will ensure that those who mine our minerals pay fair taxes. And those taxes, the priority is deployment in education, health services, and peasant agriculture. Are we together? So, peasant agriculture will be very important, comrade. This, I can go into the other details of it. It's bigger. You need to sort out a number of things in peasant agriculture, marketing systems, processing. For instance, you know, we have got cotton that is produced in Eastern Province. That cotton, it leaves this country without being processed. They just compress it and export it to China. And then you get Saraula coming in. Not a single ball of cotton produced in Eastern Province will leave that area without being processed. We set up factories producing reels and reels of cloth. Those reels and reels of cloth also will not just bring them to Osaka, export them. No. We will set up factories, clothing factories all over the country, employing designers of clothes, tailors, people servicing machines, making sewing machines. Jobs will be created in Eastern Province and other places where they are growing cotton. Within a short period, 2 to 3 years, we can start seeing results. Some of you will be going to Eastern Province to work in Petauke, in Katete, in textile industries, as engineers, as HR people, as IT experts, and so on. We can change that through agriculture. We were talking about tomatoes rotting at the market. We don't need to throw away tomatoes. We can create small factories, maybe just a small part of this room. You have a factory that is creating tomato soup. You bring in that tomato, it's washed by a machine, it's dried up, it's pounded into a powder, preservatives are added from some small factory that you have created, creating some jobs there. It's packaged from packaging materials created by some small factories where jobs are created. Some of that tomato soup you export, some of it you consume. You can produce jam from tomato, you can produce tomato juice to drink, tomato paste instead of our women cutting their fingers trying to chop up tomatoes to make a gravy. You just have a bottle or some tube and they make the gravy. And the jobs are created. You can do that with vegetables as well. You can produce vegetable soup and so on. And many other agricultural products of a food nature. So peasant agriculture will be our mainstay. And we'll put in everything to ensure that it produces and It will not only benefit the peasants, it will benefit all of us without turning us into peasants. The issue of workers. Comrade, a socialist party cannot be a socialist party without putting workers first. It is a workers' party. It is a workers' party. Socialism is the ideology of the working class. Capitalism is the ideology of the capitalist class, and its agents, the petty bourgeoisie and the comparative bourgeoisie. Feudalism was the ideology of the feudal lords. It was not the ideology of the peasants who suffered. Slavery was the ideology of the slave owners, not the slaves who suffered. So you can't be a socialist party without putting workers first. They are the owners of the party. This is a workers' party. It doesn't belong to any other class. We don't run this on the behalf of the capitalists. And the capitalists will not like a socialist party or socialism because it's not for their benefit. And they are right. Because they are pursuing their own class interests. Socialism is for the working class. And you will not see the capitalist class supporting this party and the socialist ideology. They don't want it. It's going to take it out, to take something away from them. They don't want to be ruled by a worker. Under socialism, the worker rules. Who wants to be ruled by a cowboy? But under socialism, the cowboy will rule. Our engagement with the trade unions is there. We are working with some trade unions. We are reaching out to trade unions. But let's face it, the trade union movement in Zambia has been dealt a deadly blow. From 1991, there was a destruction of the trade union movement in Zambia. It has been destroyed. It is not serving the interests of the working class in the main. It is serving the interests of the capitalist class. Sometimes when trade union leaders speak, you don't know who they are representing, whether they are representing capital or they are representing the working class. Do we blame them? Probably not, because there was a process that was there. Under UNIP, we used to have devastating strikes. Under a one-party state and a permanent state of emergency, we used to have strikes in this country. For the last 28 years since 1991, we have not had a single strike that you can call a strike in Zambia. Why? What happened after 1991 is the trade union movement was destroyed by changing the laws, changing the labor laws. Before 1991, a worker was highly protected in this country. When you get a job, it was almost a job for life. It was very difficult to fire a worker. Today, you can be hired in the morning and fired in the afternoon without even a letter of appointment and a letter of dismissal. Those who took over power in 1991 changed those laws against the worker. The fragmented unions, they proliferated the trade union movement. We had ZCTU as the only confederation or congress. Today, you can have so many confederations. We had one union, one industry, one union. Today, if we were an industry here, we would have a union there, a union there, a union there, a union there, and this comrade as an employer is pulling the strings. The unions don't have even enough juice from their members to run because they are fragmented. They don't have even enough money to put up a fight, to put up a strike. It costs money to strike. You have to start paying certain benefits to the workers who are on strike or the staff and get back to work. Our trade unions are so weak today that the leadership of the unions is in such a vulnerable position. Some of them can even easily prosecute themselves with employers against the worker. We have to work hard to give back the worker the representation the worker deserves. It's not easy. We are dealing with a very contaminated environment. In all sorts of ways, morally and otherwise, it's contaminated. We have to change the mindset. This will require new ideas and new approaches. Where are these ideas going to come from? From you yourselves. It will come from the best preachers, the best political thinkers, and people with the best of values. It is a struggle, comrade. It's not something that you just put like coffee, instant coffee, you put in a cup, you put some water, it's ready to drink. It is a struggle. We have to struggle every day. It is our duty to struggle for a better society. That society will not just come. We have to struggle for it, and it's our duty to do so. The future is not built in the future. It's built on the threshold of what we do today. And you being here today, living the important things you are doing at your homes, you are trying to build the future. You are building the future.
Well, this has been our interaction with Comrade Membe, the Socialist Party 2021 presidential candidate. At the Press Freedom Committee of the Post, we believe that you have enjoyed this interaction, and certainly it's not the last, but the beginning of many more interactions. At another time, we shall bring him back to you so that you can engage with him on many other topics. Remember, the battle is for all of us. The revolution is for every Zambian. A big hand again to Comrade Membe.